Dear friends, welcome to another episode in the fantastic world of the military. In this video, we will discuss news that seems to indicate that Russia is abandoning the T-14 Armata program, a tank that, when announced, promised to be the most advanced in the world. On March 4th, during an interview, Sergei Chemezov, the all-powerful head of Rostec, a Russian state conglomerate formed by 800 companies, many of them linked to the defense sector, finally provided more details about the role of the T-14 Armata in the Russian armed forces. Responding directly to a question about whether this tank, announced by Russia as the most modern and revolutionary in the world, is in operation in Ukraine or not, and if it will be in the future, Chemezov replied that the T-14 Armata is not in Ukraine, and there is no forecast for it to be sent to the front line. But if the T-14 Armata, officially presented to the world almost 10 years ago, is so lethal and advanced, why doesn't Russia send it to its war in Ukraine, especially now that Ukrainians are operating Western tanks? Before answering this question, let's talk a little about the T-14 Armata. Since the times of the Second World War, Russia has always been one or two steps ahead of the West in terms of tanks. First, they surprised the Germans with tanks like the impressive T-34, superior both technologically and in design to any German tank in 1941. And after the war, they continued to surprise, as in 1964 with the appearance of the T-64, considered the world's first main battle tank, a new concept that replaced the old concept of heavy tanks from wartime. Thanks to technologies like composite materials, the armor of the T-64 was lighter and more resistant than the old pure steel armor, a feature that was still completely new in the West in the 1960s. At the end of the 20th century and the beginning of the 21st century, probably due to the collapse of the Soviet Union, Russia lost its leadership in the field of tanks, with vehicles like the M1A2 Abrams from the United States, the Challenger 2 from the United Kingdom, and the more advanced versions of the German Leopard 2, matching or even surpassing some features of the T-90M from 2017, which currently represents the most advanced tank in the Russian army. It was precisely to regain an advantage in this field that, in 2010, after the cancellation of the T-95 program, the Object 148 program began, officially presented to the public by Russia in 2015, under the name T-14 Armata. Visually, it is very different from other Russian tanks, especially when we look at its turret. And the reason for this is that the turret is fully automatic and unmanned, unlike the usual turrets where there are soldiers inside, usually the gunner and the commander. In the case of the T-34, the crew is accommodated inside a kind of armored cocoon, operating the turret from the inside of this cocoon. In terms of safety, this is a tremendous advancement compared to other models of Russian tanks, since the crew is physically separated from the cannon and the ammunition depot. The tank also has numerous other innovations, such as in optical and electronic sensor systems, combat management system, a new cannon, a new engine, and even a bathroom for the crew. According to descriptions and presentations by the Russian state media, the manufacturer, and the state-owned Rostec, led by Chemezov, the T-14 was presented as a true revolution in the field of tanks in practically every aspect. It was first presented in 2015, but one of the vehicles stopped in the middle of the parade and had to be towed, with Rostec justifying the incident by the fact that it was still a very new vehicle and in the prototype phase. In 2015, Russia announced its plan to acquire 2,300 T-14 tanks by 2020. However, due to several delays, the practical testing phase on the ground only began in 2020. In that same year, Russia reported that the T-14 had been used in combat in Syria and had shown very positive results, indicating that the new and revolutionary Russian tank was already ready and in full mass production. When the Russian invasion of Ukraine began in February 2022, many expected to see the T-14 leading the Russian armored columns. But, despite careful observation of the battlefield, it was never seen. In December 2022, Russian propagandist Vladimir Solovyov announced that the T-14 was undergoing final preparations to be sent to Ukraine, and, in April 2023, RIA Novosti, a Russian state newspaper, reported that the T-14 had fired indirect shots against Ukrainian positions. In July 2023, AAS, another Russian state agency, reported that the T-14 would be involved in combat in southern Ukraine. However, despite all these indications, Russian state sources never showed videos or photos to prove the allegations. Until finally, on March 4, 2024, The head of Rostec confirmed that the T-14 had indeed not been in Ukraine and would not be, justifying this with the high cost of construction, maintenance, and operation of the vehicle. But Chemezov ensured that, in terms of functionality and capability, the T-14 is fully superior to any other tank in the world. However, as it is very expensive, it is more practical, faster, and cheaper to buy T-90 tanks or modernize old T-72 tanks. So, it seems that it will not be soon that we will see if the T-14 Armata is indeed the best tank in the world, as Russian state agencies so often report. And if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe and activate the notification bell to not miss any news, criticisms, ideas, or suggestions. You can leave them in the comments.